Most of my work revolves around video. For my own personal use, I use the Sony a6400. It's a great little mirrorless camera. And at work, for more professional stuff, we have the Sony FS5 and the Sony FS7. All fantastic cameras, but they're a little big. Sometimes you want to carry around something that's a little bit smaller, a little bit easier to use. So I decided that I needed a B camera to go with my home setup. I wanted something that was portable and easy to use and wasn't going to be too expensive. Now at the same time, I was looking to upgrade my phone. I wanted a phone that could do very good photos and very good video. So I decided to give the Pixel 4 from Google a try. So nowadays, when it comes to camera phones, there are no bad camera phones. Sure, some have much more features that you would like, and some are much more easy to use, and some are much more frustrating to use. For me, it all came down to two cameras. I wanted the Pixel 4 or the iPhone 11 Pro. Both these phones have fantastic specs when it comes to taking photos or taking video. They really are very good, and they have come a long way with camera phones. Now, a lot of people are either an Apple person or an Android. For me, it doesn't really matter. I think they're all fantastic products, and the reason I decided on the Google Pixel over the iPhone was a pretty simple one. I got a much better deal on the Google Pixel at the time. The iPhone Pro was still very good, and I really liked the specs on it, and the cameras were fantastic. I've used them. I was very impressed. But the Pixel 4, I got a fantastic deal, and I've already been on Android. That was my latest phone. I decided I just wanted to stay on Android at this point, just to keep all my file systems. I use Google Drive and a whole bunch of Google programs. So for me, it was just going to be easier. But hey, I had nothing against the iPhone. The iPhone is a fantastic camera. And I love the fact that they upgraded their camera for both photos and video. They've come a long way, and I think it's fantastic that they're really focusing on the video and the camera work, because I think it was a little lacking before, but now that camera is fantastic. But this one is also a very good camera. For me, I'm a very simple man when it comes to video. Actually, that's not true. I'm very complicated, and I have the specs that I want, and I need to get those specs, period. For one, I wanted a camera that would shoot fantastic photos. And we know the Google Pixel does that. That's great. That has some really good features. The software is really great. But for me, the most important thing when it came to video was the fact that it would shoot 4K and that it had pretty good crisp video. Now, of course, the Google Pixel does that. It shoots in 4K. That's great. That was something that was very high in my wish list, so I made sure whatever camera I picked had to shoot 4K video. Now let's take a look at the video modes on the Pixel 4. I already said that it shot in 4K. Now it shoots 4K at 30 frames, which is great. Now I love that it shot 60 frames. That would be fantastic, because you can take that footage and slow it down. You're shooting at 4K already, so if you wanted to crop that footage and to slow it down, that would be awesome. But hey, 4K at 30 frames, that's pretty decent. I'll take that, no problem. Now it also shoots 1080p or Full HD in 30 frames or 60 frames. So if I did want to slow it down, I can shoot in 1080p at 60 frames, slow that down on my timeline, and get some nice smooth footage. On the Pixel 4, it's a dual camera system, which is fantastic. Your primary camera is a 12 megapixel camera at 27mm and shoots at f1.7, which is pretty good. It's pretty wide open, so it can get you a lot of shots. It's pretty decent in low light, not fantastic like a DSLR or a mirrorless, but the fact that this could shoot at 1.7 is pretty decent. Now the second camera has more of a telephoto lens. It can shoot at 16 megapixels, which is pretty decent, and it shoots at 50 millimeters. It also has an f2.4, which is pretty decent, gives you a little bit low light sensitivity. Again, not as good as a DSLR or a mirrorless, but for a camera phone, it's pretty decent. Now, I tried this camera out as a B camera, and I think it does a pretty decent job considering it's a phone, right? The camera is pretty decent. It does a great job if you have natural light and you're outside, or even if you're inside and you have a lot of light. But when you start to lose a little bit of light, whether you're shooting indoors and you don't have a lot of that natural light, you start to see how this camera and the camera phone itself isn't as good as most mirrorless cameras or a DSLR. But I wanted to try this out. I'm going to switch this camera right now and see what the quality is on this phone. Okay, so I switched out the Sony a6400. Now you're looking at the video coming from the Google Pixel 4. One of the things I love about this phone is that you're able to hook up an external microphone. Right now, I'm using the Rode Micro Mini, which is a fantastic mic. I use it on my professional stuff. It gives me great sound, and the fact that it's such a small mic is great. I love it. And the fact that you can hook it up to this phone is great. The only thing I don't like about the phone, and it's not just this phone, is that it doesn't come with a headphone jack. So you need to get the adapter to plug in the microphone because you would use a headphone jack. It's a little frustrating, but a lot of phones are going like that, so I guess I can understand, but I would love the fact that this had a headphone jack that I could just plug that mic in, no problem. But hey, what about the quality? Does the quality look pretty decent? Could it be a B camera for my home setup? Don't know. Now, shifting from videos to the actual camera and taking still photos. This is a fantastic still photo camera. It's building on its Google Pixel 3, which had a very, very good camera and made a lot of leaps when it came to the camera phones. And they built on that camera system for the Google Pixel 4. It's a great camera. It gives you a lot of different features and a lot of different modes. The camera itself will allow you to zoom in with that telephoto lens. You can zoom in and get some really good quality stuff. Of course, like any camera phone and any camera in general, the more you zoom in and you're using a digital zoom, you're going to affect your picture quality and you're going to get a lot of noise and a lot of pixelation. But I find with this camera, the zoom is very, very good. If you zoom into a certain point, you're going to get a very crisp photo. Now, one of my favorite features for photos on this camera is the portrait mode, or I call it the bokeh mode. Basically, you take your photo and it really blurs out that background to give you a really good depth of field. Of course, it's doing that with the 2 camera lenses, but it's also using a lot of software to really blur out that background. Now, if you take that photo and you zoom in really, really carefully, you can notice some artifacts around there. You had that with the Pixel 3, and you have that again with the Pixel 4. But for the most part, you're not going to zoom in that tight on a shot. And if you look at the shot just as it is, whether it's on your camera or even on a desktop computer or on a laptop, the photo itself looks fantastic. And the fact that it can do all that calculations to get that depth of field is pretty decent. And I really, really like using this. Almost all my photos, when I'm taking family photos or anything in general where I'm taking a person as my subject, I use this portrait mode and I love the effect. It really, really works well. I'm able to do that with my mirrorless camera. I just have to use a different lens that allows me to get that depth of field, and I love that, and that's very, very crisp. But to get that portrait mode and that bokeh with a tiny little camera phone, I think that's kind of decent. Now, another feature on this phone is the night sight. Basically, it allows you to take nighttime photos and allows you to bring in more light. That's because we talked about the sensitivity of the lenses. It allows you to bring in more light so your nighttime photos look a little bit better. Now, I'm not a big fan of nighttime photos on a camera phone, but this phone, I think it does a pretty good job considering it's not a DSLR or a mirrorless, so the night sight is kind of a nice feature. Now, a big step with this camera and the night sight is the astrophotography that you can take. This is great. I thought this was just a kind of a gimmick, but I gave it a try and I got some really, really good results. You just set it up. You want to get those stars up in the sky. Go out somewhere where there's not a lot of light pollution, which isn't easy if you live in the city. But go out somewhere, you can take a look at the stars. If you're lucky enough or smart enough, you can plan where the Milky Way is going to be, and you get that shot up and you get a nice still with all the stars sparkling. Sure, it takes a while and you have to figure out how to do it. It's not really complicated. You just have to have some patience. You have to wait for the whole camera to do the process, but at the end you get some fantastic results from a tiny little phone, which is really impressive. You can even think a couple years ago, you would never be able to get a shot of the night sky with a phone like this with that kind of resolution. Another great thing about the Pixel 4 is the photo storage system. I use Google Photos and my Google Drive, so everything goes to that one location where I have all my photos and all my videos, and then from there I can decide which ones I download onto my computer, which ones I don't. That's fantastic. Sure, previous versions on the Google phones, you had free versions of this, but for me, I'm already using my Google Drive and my Google account, so it wasn't such a big deal. I was using it on my old phone. Now I just have that taken over for my new phone, and I have all my photos and all my videos stored in one spot and easy to access. I love that. Now, at the beginning of the video, I said I was looking for a good B camera to go along with my home setup, and that I wanted it to be portable, cheap, and very easy to use. Well, this is a very good video camera and a very good still camera, but I'm not sure if it's going to work for my needs and my home setup. Now, I love the fact that it does very good video. I wanted to do 4K, it does 4K. I needed something that was going to take good, quick pictures, and this does it, and that's fantastic. But for me, I think I need a little bit better camera than a camera phone for my B video. I think it's very, very good, and the fact that I always have to carry this around and that I'll always have it with me is fantastic, and I will use this in my video production. I have, and I still will. But I think I need to upgrade my camera to something other than a camera phone. That's not to say that camera phones haven't come a long way, because they have. And I think even if I would have went with the iPhone and got the iPhone 11 Pro, I think it would not have gotten the job done that I needed. And that's fine. I wanted to test it out. I had to get a new camera phone anyways, and this does a very good job. It's a great phone all around, and it does a great job for photos and videos, and I'm very, very happy with it. And I'll have it for some time now, so that's fantastic. I waited for about 2 months to make this video because I wanted to get more comfortable with the camera on the phone, and I think I've done that, and I think I get really, really good quality. I'm very, very happy, but I don't think it's gonna work out as a B camera like I wanted to. So I'll have to keep looking for the perfect portable B camera. Thanks for watching, guys. I really, really appreciate it.